It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at Thanksgiving weekend 2006. And just gonna let you know right now, this is not a very good week. This is not a very good Thanksgiving for new movies, because a lot of these movies that we're gonna be talking about here are pretty bad. We got four to look at. Can we find a victory out of this one? Can we find a movie that's actually good? Well, let's start with the first movie. I mean, it's got Denzel Washington. It's directed by Tony Scott. It's a movie about time travel. A time-traveling movie with Denzel Washington. What could possibly go wrong here? Let's see if deja vu is the answer we're looking for. This movie sucks. Like, how do you have a time-traveling movie directed by Tony Scott and Denzel Washington and make a movie that is so boring? In this movie, Washington plays an ATF agent who travels back in time in an attempt to prevent a domestic terrorist attack that takes place in New Orleans and to save a woman played by Paula Patton with whom he falls in love. So much of this movie had so much potential to work. I mean, it's hard to make a really bad time travel movie. And yet, one of the coolest directors ever, and the greatest actor of all time, somehow managed to do that. And I don't even think it was because of, it's not even Washington's fault, really, or even Tony Scott's, honestly. It's the script. The script is really, really boring. Nothing happens in this movie whatsoever. And as cool as Denzel Washington is trying to be in this movie to save it, he can't save this movie. This is one of those examples when even the greatest actor of all time can't save a bad movie. And this is a really bad movie. This is a boring film. The action sequences aren't that great. They're not even great at all. They're just really lackluster. The reason why time travel exists in this world is not really a good reason. The casting in this, like, so many good actors in here. Val Kilmer, Bruce Greenwood, Adam Goldberg, Jim Caviezel. A lot of really good names in here, and yet it is one of the most boring, abysmal movies I have ever seen in my life. Like, when I first saw this movie, I could not believe how bored I was with it, because, like I said before, it's a Denzel Washington, Tony Scott movie about time traveling to stop terrorists from attacking part of America. I mean, how do you make something that awesome seem like the most boring thing ever? This movie somehow found a way, and boy, this is one of the worst ones that Tony Scott has ever done. It's probably one of Denzel's worst movies he's ever made. Again, not because of him in particular. The guy will always put 110% in whatever he's in, even if it is a bad movie. But even so, not even his good performance in this can save this train wreck. Yeah, it's a bad film, unfortunately. Yeah, so yeah, a hard skip on Deja Vu. So that's one bad movie down. Can we buck the trend with our next movie, Deck the Hall? Oh, God. This movie sucks. I mean, I don't even need to give you a full explanation of why it sucks, because I've already given a full explanation of how this movie sucks. No joke. As of the time of recording this, I just did the worst. I'm doing my worst movies of all time list on the Reviewing Network Talks About, and this was right up in the top 20 of my worst movies of all time. I think it was actually, if it wasn't top 20, it's definitely in my top 30, and I just did a video on that, so whatever place it was, you can go check that video out in the corners. You can get a full review of why I hate this movie so much. But to sum it up real quickly, Danny DeVito moves into Matthew Broderick's neighborhood. Matthew Broderick is seen as Mr. Christmas, which, like, who the hell calls himself Mr. Christmas? Like, but, you know, Danny DeVito has this idea that he wants to be known for something, and he wants his house to be seen from space, which makes no sense, because his neighbor's house can be seen from space, but not Danny DeVito's house. The whole movie is just a clusterfuck, and like I said, I delved deeper into my video here about how bad this movie is, because this really is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. This is up there with Christmas with the Cranks for one of the worst Christmas movies of all time. I mean, that's how bad this movie is, and not even somebody like Kristen Chenoweth, who has the only legitimately good scene in the movie with her singing at the end of it. And even then, like, it's just me trying to find a needle in a haystack. Is a hay in a needle stack, if you will, if you want to paraphrase a SpongeBob moment. But you get the idea here. You can watch my original reviews to get the full full context of why I hate this movie in general, but this is a bad movie. It's one of the worst comedies I've ever seen, one of the worst Christmas movies I've ever seen, one of the worst movies of all time. Not much more to say about this one. So, on to the next movie, and that is Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz and Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain. Surely, talent like this can save this movie, right? Right? This movie sucks. Yeah, we're now getting into style over substance movies now, and Darren Aronofsky, who had been relatively on a hot streak, had his first real major misfire with this one. Blending elements of fantasy, history, spirituality, and science fiction, the film consists of 3 storylines involving immortality and the resulting loves lost, and one man's pursuit of avoiding this fate in the life or beyond it. Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz play a set of characters bonded by love across time and space, a conquistador and his ill-fated queen, a modern-day scientist and his cancer-stricken wife, and a traveler immersed in a universal journey alongside aspects of his lost love. The stories interwoven with use of match cuts and recurring visual motifs reflect the themes and interplay of love and mortality. This was a film that was originally supposed to star Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett, although they would appear later in other Darren Aronofsky films. I think I know Brad Pitt was in Tree of Life. I can't remember if Cate Blanchett was in there, but I'm pretty sure she was in a Darren Aronofsky movie. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty confident she was. But because the Brad Pitt left and the cost just really began to become bigger for this movie, Warner Brothers almost shut it down. So Aronofsky had to rewrite the script and hire higher paid actors, if you will, like Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz. And this was the movie that they made. And yeah, it's a beautiful looking movie. Don't get me wrong, but it's a movie that has a really lackluster story. I mean, it almost kind of reminds me of a movie that Robin Williams did back in the 90s called Being Human, which was kind of the same thing. Robin Williams played these different characters and played sort of the same character in different generations. Like, he'd play different people, and it'd be kind of like the same idea that this movie had. And even that one didn't work overall. As much as I love Robin Williams, and as much as I love the idea of what they were trying to do there, it's definitely a movie that does not work overall. And this is one that's, yeah, it's got a beautiful look to it, but as I always say time and time again, visuals do not make the fucking movie. And yeah, visuals did not make this movie at all. It's a movie that is, I mean, I guess I could say it's trying. The visuals are good, and Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz are doing their best to keep it together, but even then, the rest of the film is just such a cluttered mess of a movie, and it just doesn't work. So yeah, that's a hard skip on The Fountain. So we've 0 for 3 so far. Can our last film that we have here somehow buck the trend? Let's see if Tenacious D's The Pick of Destiny can do just that. This movie does not suck. Yes, we finally found a good movie on this Thanksgiving weekend. And what a shocker, it's the one that nobody went to go see. In the film, you have Tenacious D, Jack Black, and Kyle Gass. They, even though they are an actual band, it's a fictitious story about the band's origins and their journey to find a magical pick belonging to Satan that allows its users to become rock legends. And the reason why this movie works is because it's one of the stupidest things ever, and they are fully aware of that. This movie is the perfect example of a screwball, stupid, over-the-top comedy with 2 very funny talents in Jack Black and Kyle Gass. I mean, this is a very niche film, if you will. This is one of those comedies like Idiocracy that only a specific group of people are really going to invest themselves in and find a lot of it to be really funny. And this came out in the perfect time for me because I liked Idiocracy a lot. I liked a lot of movies similar to this that did not get the proper respect back then, but they've since gone on to have cult followings. This is definitely a film that has gone on to have a massive cult following, and thank God for that, because it is absolutely ridiculously brilliant. It's one of the most hilarious things ever. It's so stupid, it's so ridiculous. Everything about it is just so idiotic, but it's also very smart at the same time, and it's just a good, fun ride all the way through. Like, even if you've never heard of Tenacious D, which I didn't know Jack Black was in a band before this movie came out. Like, I went into this not knowing who the real Tenacious D was, but made me want to listen to the music that they were making, because the music is incredible too. I mean, the Pick of Destiny song, and the I guess POD it's called, is one of the greatest songs ever. I mean, I love that song so much. Like, I'll start like singing it out of nowhere for some reason, and it's just because it's just such a great song. I mean, the lyrics in that song are so good. The music in this is absolutely incredible. The movie is just so much fun all around. It's so stupid, it's so ridiculous, but I loved every minute of it. It's a movie that I like watching a lot. I watch it every couple of years, and man, every time I watch it, it gets funnier and funnier and funnier. I can't recommend this one enough. This is easily the best movie that came out this weekend. Who would have guessed that a movie with Denzel Washington, time travel, and directed by Tony Scott, a comedy with Matthew Broderick and Danny DeVito, and a film by Darren Aronofsky starring Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz would all be the terrible movies, and yet the best movie that came out on Thanksgiving weekend is a movie where Jack Black and Kyle Gass are literally fighting Satan for a magical guitar pick. Strange world we live in, I know. But, yeah, not much more to say about this one. This is a great movie. Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. And so with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we'll take a look at 3 movies to start the month of December, the last month of 2006, which includes Catherine Hardwicke directing The Nativity Story, of course, the greatest miracle story of all time about the birth of baby Jesus. We also have the horror film Turistas, one of the first films from Fox Atomic, which was their attempt to create a new Rogue Pictures for 20th Century Fox, and a sequel that nobody was really asking for, even though it's got Kal Penn back in it, but no Ryan Reynolds. Van Wilder, The Rise of Taj, and believe it or not, that's the one I went to go see that weekend, but we'll talk about those movies next time around. That'll be on the next episode that comes up tomorrow. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button, because we post videos here every day, and you get updates on when new videos come out. And coming up later tonight on Time About the Movies Flashback, we're flashing back to the start of October 1987 with Like Father, Like Son, Big Shots, Catherine Bigelow's Near Dark, Slam Dance, and Zombie High. So we'll take a look at those movies. That's coming up on Time About the Movies Flashback, which will be posted after this, so stick around. We will be right back.